Hello and welcome back. The fourth video of the series that I promised you a bonus video on leveraging happiness. So I would love to just be, first of all, totally congratulatory that you have done this series, that you took the time to learn this information, especially with how busy you are. I mean, if you're here because you're overwhelmed and stressed out and exhausted, then it's really difficult to sit down and watch these videos. And they're not little tiny videos. There's a lot of packed information here for you. So I want to just say thank you and congratulations. It's immense. I know how valuable your time is. I also want to just say that it's important to stay in the green, and I'm excited. I've been getting tons of feedback, and in fact, I love hearing from you. So I've been getting some emails from everyone telling me how much people want to stay in the green and how excited they are to learn that they could break out of overwhelm forever and actually reconfigure the way their body and their mind does stress, so that there's a trigger that just stops them from going down into that stress spiral and they can lift themselves back up into the green as easily as possible. So the thing that I want to mention today is we're going to go into a new topic, and there are so many different ways that you can shift and align yourself using your internal guidance system. And I want to share with you two key aspects today that are super important that'll help you stay happy. It's like I call it the happiness leverage. Every time you have an opening thought and you follow that opening thought, you're creating that green spiral inside of your body. It's incredibly important, and it becomes a new habit that you just naturally do. And that's what I really want for you more than anything, is for you to be able to stay up in the green, be internally directed, not have all these outside influences and influencing your mind and telling you what's good, what's bad, what you have to, should, need to, and must do in any given moment. I want you to be able to check in for yourself, follow your own personal internal guidance system, and then move forward into the green, completely self-directed with wisdom and discernment. I like to call that energy, that essence, flow, F-L-O-W, which means feeling light, open, and wise. When you move through and begin to use your internal guidance system in your life, you get into the flow. It's a natural way that you exist. The overwhelm, the exhaustion, the anxiety drop away, the stress goes with it, and you become healthier and happier. So one of the key ways that I use my internal guidance system, and it's a practice that I want to share with you, is I use it to make my immediate decisions. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to be a little schizophrenic up here. Like an example would be laying in bed in the morning, right? And half of you wants to jump out of bed because you've got stuff you need to do, and the other half of you wants to lay in bed, and you kind of sit there going back and forth with the head noise. We do this about all kinds of things in our life, from eating healthy to exercise to all the other should, have tos, and need tos that we have in our lives that are musts, right? Like getting out of bed in the morning. We must get out of bed. It is true. Some days we can stay in, but mostly we need to get out of bed. And so I want to share with you what I have found is happening inside of most people's heads, excuse me. We each have what I like to call the child and the critic. The child, we'll start with. The child So I want to share with you two of the voices. You may have more voices than this in your head. So I'd like to share with you two voices that I have in my head and that I found that almost everyone does as well. And you may have other voices, like the voice of your mother or the voice of your boss, the voice of a favorite teacher, right? But these are two that everyone pretty much has. The first one I want to discuss, I call the child. The child is that part of you that says, oh, I really want a cookie. I really want a cookie. Can I have a cookie? I just can't have a cookie. I feel so good today. I've done so much. I worked out this morning. It's that part of you that wants to nourish you. It wants you to do fun things. It wants you to take time off work. It wants you to lay in bed longer in the morning. And then we have the other part, which I call the critic. Now, the critic is that part of you that says, no, you can't have a cookie, you're on a diet, there's too many calories, stay away from the cookie. It's also the part that goads you on and urges you. You need to get out of bed. There's 100,000 things that you want to do today, and you're never going to get them done unless you get out of bed, or you promised yourself you would get out of bed and exercise before work this morning. Get up out of bed. So the critic is the one that kind of goads you forward. It's the taskmaster, the person that is inside you that's kind of whipping you to do better and the thing is it's not a bad thing. It's just who it is. It's there to make you a better person. And then in the middle of these two is you, your authentic you. Right? You are in the middle, and I can kind of call this the slave. Now, I understand that term may not be favorable to some, but that's what it feels like when you're in the middle between the two. And you actually kind of feel like you become the slave to the critic. Maybe taskmaster has you most of your life, or you become the slave to your child. Maybe you overindulge. Now, each and every one of us is unique. Each and every one of us has a different percentage of child and critic. So that's what's interesting. You may have friends that you could actually say, oh, they are run by their child most of the time. They're overindulgent, they happen to be late, they have a tendency to eat whatever they want. They just kind of don't really get that much discipline out of life. That's not how they live life. And then people possibly that are super disciplined and they're rigid and they're taskmasters and they're totally like all the ducks are in a row and they do what they say they're going to do no matter what happens. Well, all of us have a different percentage. And what's important is to take this slave side of yourself and change it into you being authentically you, and you're the one who's in charge of these two voices. Now, I recommend you use your internal guidance system to do that. So I'm going to give you a tool, a way to do that. When you're laying in bed in the morning, and not everybody has this issue with getting out of bed, but find something where you know that you've got the back and forth going on. You're arguing with yourself inside your head about doing something. And what I'd like for you to do, whether it be a cookie or getting out of bed in the morning, is lay there, and when the child's voice comes through, I don't want to get out of bed, I want to spend 10 more minutes here. Notice if your IGS opens to those thoughts. Notice if you get an expansion feeling. If the thought inside your head is, I want to lay here in bed for another 10 minutes, I just want to relax, and you get a collapsed feeling, notice if you're closed. If you're open, it's okay to stay in bed longer. It's not going to affect your day, and everything's going to be fine. However, if you're closed, it's time to get out of bed. You need to get out of bed. Your IGS can help you monitor. If you want the cookie and your IGS opens, have the cookie. It's okay. If you don't, if you want the cookie and your IGS closes, maybe it's going to cause a sugar crash. Maybe it's going to hinder you from eating healthy later in the day. If you close, don't have the cookie. Your internal guidance system's telling you not to have the cookie. And what happens is when you begin to use your IGS, you stop being the slave, and you're open, you follow that, the back and forth stop. The exhaustion that happens inside of your head, all the wasted thought of the argument goes away. And the thing is if you know that you can have the cookie, you'll enjoy it. There won't be the critic sitting there. You'll be like, no, I opened, critic. Stop. If you're in bed, notice, even if you're in bed and you decide to stay in bed 10 more minutes, your critic doesn't shut up. You should be getting up. You said you were going to exercise, blah, 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 right? Or if you get out of bed, then your whiny child's like, I don't want to be up. I'm so tired. I didn't sleep enough last night. Well, what happens is when you follow the opening, you're confident in your decision. You know that you're supposed to get out of bed. You're open, so you're filled with energy. Remember that expansion happens. And you move through your day without those two voices battering you about the choice you just made. It's super exciting, and it'll leverage your happiness. You'll stop being miserable. So I want to share with you the top 3 reasons that people who find out they have an internal guidance system don't learn about it, or they don't use it in their life to get out of the stress spiral and move themselves into the green. There's 3 reasons that people fail with this information, and I want to share it with you so that you're aware, and hopefully you can avoid some of the trap. The number 1 reason that people fail is they forget they have an IGS. How many times have you learned something new or decided you were going to do things differently, And what ended up happening is it just went to the wayside, never to be thought of again. We forget. We read books that we want to take into our lives and take action on, and we don't. We're habitual people. It's just the way our minds are made. And unless we do something, we take action with support in a committed way, we won't remember. It takes like a consistency in order to change the habitual minds we have. So the number one way that people unfortunately fail to move themselves out of spiral, to stay out of the breakdown area of the downward part of the spiral, is because they forget they have an IGS. Number two is under stress, we regress. Under stress, we regress. Now, what does that mean? The habits that you have in the most difficult times of your life, you're making dinner and the kids are all crazy running around and you're trying to get everything done and you want to get dinner done and put the groceries away and get the wash in and all of that, and you start getting overwhelmed and stressed out about it and you begin yelling at the kids. Put that down. Would you knock it off? I said to get in the bathtub. And this way in which you do stress comes right back. So what happens is though, even though you want to use your IGS and check these thoughts, even though your IGS is closing and he's giving you a visceral experience that what you're thinking in this moment is not true, you don't know how to do it differently because you haven't taken on any other practices and practiced them enough to do stress differently. It takes a practice, it takes time in order to do stress differently. And so people will fail if they try to do this on their own. They either forget they have it or they just completely regress to the way they were. And the third reason, which is I think almost most difficult of all, no support to find the yield signs. Now remember, and then not only that, signs. Not only that is there no support to find the yield signs, but do you remember when you pictured the yellow yield sign? And for those of you who don't have yield signs or from different countries, I'm sorry, but you can get the gist of how powerful that experience is. And I'd love for you to comment, by the way, below on how that was for you so that people that don't have that awareness can get a feel for what that felt like as an aha in your mind. But the key is that not only did you not see the red and white yield sign, could you picture the red and white yield sign if I hadn't given you a picture? Your mind would have still driven the yellow and black yield sign towards you. And unless you have help to produce the red and white yield sign in your mind, like that picture did, it's almost impossible for you to come up with that because it's not in there. And in our lives, we have these very painful yield signs that are running our relationships, our careers, how we think about ourselves, our body, the way we do things, the way we beat ourselves up, flog ourselves mentally, that critic and that child running us. And it's very difficult to move up and out of that and see that the yellow yield sign is there and we need to find the red and white one. And it takes support. It takes help to learn how to do that. So I would like to share with you a little bit about my program that I have. It's a coaching program that will help you to have mastery of your internal guidance system while I continue to share with you other ways to use your internal guidance system. I want to keep giving you strategies and tips and tools, but I also would like to share with you how you can learn more, how you can master this inner direction. So I have there's a couple of ways actually that you can work with me in order to do this. And one of them is a live program. It's an amazing live program that's 3 days long. And in it, we work together in an intimate setting to discover your yield signs, for you to understand your unique stress, for you to get a gauge on how the child and the critic are running you. In day one, what we do is I have you tap into your body and make sure that you're feeling your internal guidance system so that you can begin to build trust. I'm not going to send you out there in the world and have you trust this part of yourself that you've never really been able to reach before and understand to make big life decisions and make transformations in your relationship and as a mom and in your career. just not going to do that. I want you to build trust. And then we go through and we find your unique stress. What are those externally driven thoughts that are closing you down? What are those yield signs that are unique to your mind? We discover them, we pull them out as themes, and we begin working with them to reconfigure your mind so that you can have new neural pathways towards the red yield sign, towards your green path. Remember, when you open, you're moving yourself up the spiral. So the more that we excavate all of those closing thoughts and reconfigure your brain using your internal guidance system, the new neural pathways happen. And those old yield signs fall away. They're literally excavated and cast aside. And you're able to move forward more authentically you. We discover what's going on with your child and your critic, and we help you to become the master of those two so that the head noise goes away. You become more in balance, literally, mentally. Think for a moment just how much time and energy you spend on worry, anxiety, and fear, and stress, and flogging yourself, beating yourself up for what you're not doing. Just give yourself a thought. If all those thoughts were gone, they were cleared out, no more worry, stress, fear, and anxiety. You knew what to do with those thoughts to move yourself back in the green. You knew how to reprogram your own mind from an internal place that's authentically you. How much more energy would you have? How much more time would you have for creative thought? How much more time would you have to do things you love? Think about all those nights at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning with those gone. How amazing it would be. And this new tool so that if something does come up, you can totally fix it and move through it and be done. So that's day 1. And then on day 2, I give you practices. One of the things that people don't realize is that even our emotions are externally driven most of the time. We got our emotional makeup of who we are from our parents. We watch them respond in a certain way, and then we guess that that's how we're supposed to feel and think, and then we respond in that way. It shows up in our marriages. It shows up at work when somebody comes at us in a particular way. We'll respond in a particular way, and it's closing, and it doesn't feel good. So on day 2, I give you some incredible, powerful practices that allows you to find those emotions that are yield signs as well, and begin recreating them so that you have an authentic emotional experience in your life, and you're able to communicate authentically in an emotional setting that's clear and open. If you have any kind of melodramatic, drama queen, or internal things where you're getting really upset and you can feel that closing, but you can't figure out how to move through it, you're having conversations with people long after the situation is over, I should have said this, or how dare they, all of those kinds of things are often triggers that are letting you know that you're in an inauthentic emotional experience, that what you're feeling isn't actually true. And so day 2, we go through your emotional experience, and we also completely and totally work on some of the most traumatic things that cause you the most pain in your life, and we unravel them using your IGS, and they evaporate. We take some of your deepest fears, your deepest experience of fear, down to the core, and we release it. You know, one of the interesting things that I've found is that fear is desire that's going unexpressed. When you have a deep fear, what's actually happening is that you're not expressing something that you truly want in your life. And your internal guidance system is letting you know there's something that you need to ask for or you're not going to be able to get it. But because it's showing up as fear, we run from it. So we're going to go through together intimately, and we're going to discover that together and release it so that that fear can evaporate and that desire can go expressed and be brought towards you. And then on day 3, with the most powerful days of all, I give you practices that allow you to look at what's happening inside your mind and unravel and find new opening thoughts that are creative and amazing and energetic. Just super fulfilling, powerful opening thoughts. It's not all about the closing and moving away from the closing. It's also about recreating and generating powerful opening thoughts. So we're going to spend day 3 recreating your life from the inside out, being internally directed.